Very good morning, class 11th. How are you, my kids? I hope you all are doing great and enjoying festivals also with your online classes. Now we are moving towards our last topics of our chapter, that is breathing and exchange of gases. And today, one by one, we are left only with the three topics, that is oxygen dissociation curve, then there is the regulation of respiration, and the last part is about the disorders. So let's start with the oxygen dissociation curve. Oxygen dissociation curve, it means we are going to talk about here when the about the complex, which complex is formed in our respiration during the exchange of gases, that is the oxyhemoglobin complex, right? So when oxygen dissociation curve is what? It is a graph basically which is representing the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen, means how much percentage of hemoglobin is going to combine with oxygen. That percentage means when partial pressure, and that we will measure according to the partial pressure. So this is a graph basically which show the percentage of saturation of hemoglobin, means when hemoglobin forms a complex with the oxygen, that is called oxyhemoglobin, at which partial pressure how much percentage of saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen happens, that we are going to check with the oxygen dissociation curve. Now as you can see that on your y-axis we have taken percentage saturation of hemoglobin, it means that is oxyhemoglobin we are going to talk about, and on x-axis we have marked partial pressure of oxygen, which will be in of mercury. So here we have taken few rating, that is a 10 few reading, that is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Same you have to take in the y-axis also, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 and 100, right? So now one by one we will see. First just look at the that if partial pressure of oxygen is 20, if partial pressure of oxygen it is 20, what are you thinking, that what is the saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen? That is 30%. It means when partial pressure of oxygen is 20 during the exchange, then 30% of hemoglobin is going to combine with oxygen. Clear? Next is if the partial pressure of oxygen it is 40, then 75%, if partial pressure of oxygen is 40, then 70% of oxygen is going to combine with hemoglobin, means hemoglobin will carry 70% of oxygen during if partial pressure is 40. Now next is the if partial pressure is 95, which we observe during the oxygenated blood. So then our if partial pressure of oxygen is our 95, then almost you can see 97% of hemoglobin is getting saturated. If I am taking it 97, so that will be 97% of our hemoglobin will carry oxygen. So that way what we discussed in the our last exchange of gases, transportation of gases also. Suppose if this is your alveoli, what is the partial pressure of oxygen in alveoli is 104. So when it is deoxygenated blood, in deoxygenated blood partial pressure of oxygen is 40, so now oxygen will move in the blood, so partial pressure of oxygen will be 95. So when partial pressure of oxygen is 95, then hemoglobin which is saturated is, that is 97%. It means 97% of hemoglobin is going to attach with oxygen when partial pressure of oxygen is 95. Now in the tissues oxygen is 20 and in blood it is 95, so oxygen will come in and CO2 will go out. That time in the deoxygenated blood, even in the deoxygenated blood, there is the hemoglobin combining with the oxygen. Still there is the oxygen present in that blood. So 75% still your blood is carrying oxygen with the help of hemoglobin, right? When your partial pressure of oxygen is 40. So if we talk about that, if 100 ml of deoxygenated, or if I say venous blood is given to you, venous blood it is given to you, then it is having 14.8 ml of oxygen, right? And if I say that 100 ml of blood which is carrying 15 gram of hemoglobin, then you know that it will become at 20.1 ml of oxygen will be transported, or you can say 19.8. In few books they have mentioned 19.8, or average is the 20.1. So even deoxygenated blood also carries 14.8 ml of oxygen if we are taking 100 ml of deoxygenated blood. So factors, so important thing we have to need to understand here, that this curve is known as oxygen dissociation curve, or this is known as the sigmoid curve. This curve of oxygen hemoglobin, it is known as the sigmoid curve. It has the another name also, oxygen dissociation curve. Why it is oxygen dissociation curve also, now we will understand it, that factors, from the factors which affecting oxygen or dissociation curve, or I can say the factors which affecting sigmoid curve. As you know that CO2, the first factor which is going to affect is this curve, that is CO2 concentration. If there is increase in the CO2 concentration, then the oxygen, this curve will move towards right. This curve, if CO2 is more, because if oxygen is more, then it is ultimately it is going to saturate 97%, it is saturating at the partial pressure 95. But if even CO2 is more, now this curve will move towards right. Towards right move करना मतलब अब तो ये इसके साथ कोई मैच ही नहीं है. Now it cannot form a complex with hemoglobin अगर ये राइट को टर्न कर गई. सो इट मीन्स जैसे जैसे CO2 इंक्रीज, अगर CO2 कॉन्सेंट्रेशन बहुत इंक्रीज है आपके ब्लड में, तो ऑक्सीजन dissociation will move towards right, and it means hemoglobin plus oxygen complex will not form, और it will dissociate, टूट जाएगा वो ऑक्सीजन के साथ जो हीमोग्लोबिन कॉम्प्लेक्स था, क्योंकि ऑक्सीजन ज़्यादा नहीं है यहाँ पे, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड कॉन्सेंट्रेशन इज मोर, एंड दिस इज नोन एज बोहर्स इफेक्ट. That is known as Bohr's effect. So here what is happening, that oxygen is getting dissociated from the hemoglobin. How? Which factor is affecting it? With increase in CO2 concentration. So with increase in CO2 concentration, this curve will move towards right, and this is called Bohr's effect, and oxygen hemoglobin complex, it will dissociate. If that we talk about the temperature, now see, with increase in temperature, जैसे जैसे टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज होगा, इट अगेन दिस कर्व विल मूव टूवर्ड्स राइट, एंड कर्व राइट की तरफ मूव करना मतलब ब्रेक डाउन ऑफ ऑक्सीजन हीमोग्लोबिन कॉम्प्लेक्स. इट मीन्स another factor which is dissociating the complex, that is your temperature. With increase in temperature, it is also affecting your oxygen hemoglobin complex. Third one is pH. At acidic pH also curve will move towards the, or bend towards the right. So these 3 points, your CO2 concentration, increase CO2 concentration, not the normal one, specific increase in CO2 concentration, temperature and pH, they will move, due to them the curve will move towards right, and there will be no bending of oxygen oxygen with the hemoglobin, or it will break down. So that is about the our regulation, that is about the factors as well as the oxygen dissociation curve. Next is about the nervous and chemical control of respiration. If I say respiration is controlled at two levels, nervous and chemical level. Nervous control, as you can see, it involves nervous system, and specifically it involves central nervous system, and chemically it involves the, it means it is associated with the hormones or the chemisensitive bodies. It is associated with chemisensitive bodies. So first we will talk about the nervous control. Now for respiration, for regulation of respiration and nervous control, there are three respiratory control centers. Two are present on the medulla, in the medulla, and one is present in the pons varolii, right? And these, all of you are aware that these are the parts of central nervous system, and they are known as the main rhythmicity centers or rhythmic centers for the respiration. So here we are talking about nervous control, and we have three respiratory control centers, two on the medulla and one on the pons, and they are known as the rhythmic centers. First, let's talk about the inspiratory center, and then we will talk about expiratory. Inspiratory, it is located on medulla, as you can say, inspiratory, so it is responsible for the normal inhalation. Normal, one respiratory cycle complete, your one respiratory cycle includes your inspiration also as well as expiration also. So one complete rhythmic cycle, one complete respiratory cycle, it is completed in 5 seconds, out of which 2 seconds we inspire and 3 seconds we release out the air. Clear? And this, who is regulation, which is the regulation center, that is the medulla. It is this inspiratory center, it is located on the medulla. Expiratory center is also located on the medulla, and usually in normal conditions, when you are normally breathing, it is inactive. It only gets stimulated when you have to do forceful inspiration or forceful exhalation, and usually we use this kind of situation whenever especially we are in anxiety, or sometimes we are doing very harsh exercises. So during these kind of conditions, there is a forceful inspiration or forceful exhalation, and that time this expiratory center get activated during forcefully inspiration and exhalation. Next is the pneumotaxic center, that is our third center. I told you that two centers, they are located on medulla, and one center is on the pons. This is called pneumotaxic center. It is P is silent, pneumotaxic center. It also works during exercise. Basically, it increases breathing and it gets shallower. Shallow means कि जो gap है between the tubes, that becomes more and more very less, so due to which breathing basically increase because of the contraction. As you can see that in pneumotaxic center, if I specifically I want to give you example, have you seen the dogs in the summers, especially in the summers? If you have observed dogs in the summer, then their tongue is maximum of the time outside, which we call it as a panting in case of dogs. They continuously, they are breathe very fast breathing, and that fast breathing is because of this pneumotaxic center. And this pneumotaxic center, which is regulating the increase in breathing, it is located on your pons varolii. So if somebody asks you that who is the regulating centers for your breathing, see, there are regulating centers is your pons varolii also, then there is the medulla also. Now it depends that in your question they have asked you for the normal breathing or they have asked you for the heavy breathing. So for heavy breathing or increase in the breathing, the pneumotaxic center is responsible. For forceful breathing, your expiratory center of medulla is responsible. It means in your normal breathing rate, it is the inspiratory center is responsible, which is present on your medulla. So I hope this much is clear that we have three centers, that is inspiratory, expiratory and pneumotaxic center. The next last one is the chemical control. It is controlled by chemosensitive bodies. It means chemicals, they are controlling it. And here chemicals are actually your oxygen, your CO2. We are not going to particular these are your chemicals which are going to control the respiration process. Oxygen, carbon dioxide, even the H positive ions also, right? They control the respiration at the chemical level. And two chemosensitive bodies, they control respiration, which are known as carotid body and aortic body. First let me explain a little bit about the carotid body. There are the if we say the in the side of your neck, right, just very close to your ear, there are two arteries, that is the two carotid arteries, which ultimately going to join to the aorta, right? So in the this artery there is a place when that is called the carotid sinus. As you can see, this is the on the base of the carotid sinus. If this is the these are the two sinuses, and there on the base there is present carotid body. So carotid sinus के बेस पे ये कैरोटिड साइनस जो है अल्टीमेटली इट विल जॉइन अयोटा, एंड इसके बेस पे यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट होती हैं हमारी कैरोटिड बॉडीज. दिस आर वेरी सेंसिटिव टू द ऑक्सीजन एंड CO2 कॉन्सेंट्रेशन. नेक्स्ट एक और बॉडी जो केमिकली बहुत जिस इफेक्ट करती है, दैट इज़ अयोटिक बॉडी, और ये प्रेजेंट होती है अयोटा के ऊपर. अयोटा के ऊपर जो प्रेजेंट होगी दैट इज़ द अयोटिक. और साइनस ये आपके ईयर्स के पास में से जो निकल रही है दैट इज़ द कैरोटिड, नीचे नॉट द पास, इट्स बिलो. सो दैट इज़ योर कैरोटिड साइनस. और यहाँ पे जो बॉडी होती है इट इज़ द कैरोटिड बॉडी. Now these both bodies, carotid as well as aortic, they are sensitive to partial pressure of oxygen and CO2, but more they are both, carotid and aortic both are sensitive to partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So if we say aortic and carotid body, they are more sensitive to partial pressure of carbon dioxide. If there is increase in partial pressure of CO2, as you can observe in the tissues, there is the partial pressure of CO2 is more, there is a stimulation of body. There is the stimulation, these bodies, carotid and aortic, they get stimulated. Then they stimulate expiratory muscles. Now have you do you know that what is the expiratory muscle? Yes, you definitely know. What happened during the inspiration? Which muscles we talked about? We said that there is the phrenic and your phrenic, diaphragm, or you can say intercostal muscles, they contract, but during expiration they relax. So who is taking care of them? That is the aortic and carotid body. First they get stimulated, then they stimulates expiratory muscles, and when your expiratory muscles they now get stimulated, then your more and more carbon dioxide is exhaled. So but they are, so both bodies, aortic and carotid, they are more sensitive to the CO2. Partial pressure oxygen, as you know that if the CO2 will be increased, what will be decreased? O2 will be decreased at that time. So they are less sensitive to the oxygen because their function is more related with the expiratory muscles. So that is why they are sensitive to, just whenever in any part of your body there is increase, they get stimulated, expiratory muscles get activated, and they start exhaling the CO2, but they are not that much sensitive to oxygen. The last one is the respiratory disorders.